Well, look, Ubisoft is very desperate to convince everybody that this thing is just a massive success. And they want you talking about some numbers. They don't want you talking about other numbers, which I find fairly interesting. But, you know, they told us 2 days after launch, 2 million players, not 2 million copies sold, 2 million players, which pretty important distinction there. 2 million players were thrilled to celebrate this incredible milestone. AC Shadows has now surpassed the launches of AC Origins and Odyssey. Thank you for joining the future in feudal Japan. Yes, very, very accurate to feudal Japan with Black Yasuke going around there, sticking his big black dick in a bunch of Asian dudes' assholes, right? Very accurate to feudal Japan. But
definitely,
the players are a little bit more mixed when it comes to this. We see it at a 5.9 on Metacritic. Certainly not indicative of the worst thing in the world, but also seems like it's pretty disappointing to a lot of people. I've seen some people say it's a return to form. The same thing they say for every fucking Assassin's Creed that comes out. They're like, the best Assassin's Creed since Black Flag. That's always the one that people come back to because that's one of the last that was kind of universally loved by a lot of people. But when you start to look into these numbers and what they're saying, Assassin's Creed, Ubisoft basically told us this needs to be the biggest Assassin's Creed game of all time for this to be a success for us and for us to save the company. And when you look at these numbers, it's tough for me to understand some of these things and connect some of these dots. We saw the Steam charts. Valhalla did not launch on Steam, came out 2 years after. But the peak for AC Shadows on its opening weekend was 64,000. They're saying it's massively surpassed the launch of Odyssey. That's a little hard for me to understand because Odyssey peaked at almost the exact same player count on Steam back when Steam had about 45 million fewer active users. So is all of this due to maybe the Ubisoft Plus prescription or a subscription service? Is that where all these players are coming from? If so, you're probably not that far off from Odyssey and Origins, and you might actually be far fewer when it comes to actual sales.
Yeah, I definitely feel like Ubisoft Plus is a big reason why they're able to tout this 2 million player count, which again, as you pointed out, is not sales. And I do feel like a lot of people are probably just going to play it that way. It's not a game where we're going to see these numbers very steadily rise as the months and the years go on. Like, I feel like anybody who wanted to play it is going to play it now, and that's going to be it. So we're never going to see like, oh, in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we're not going to see like a resurgence. We're not going to see the numbers go up and like tons of people playing it, or when DLC comes out, I don't think we're going to see those numbers skyrocket again. So I just don't think that we're going to see higher than the 64K. And when you go from 64K on one platform to 2 million players, there's a big difference there.
Yeah, when you do look at some of the analysts that look at these things and talk about sales based on how many people or how many trophies on a certain site that people have accumulated on PlayStation, achievements on Xbox, stuff like that, they're essentially looking at right now around, they think maybe 1.1 million copies sold are like the guesstimates out there. We obviously don't know those for sure. That's just what people are using with available data to analyze. But one of the things with, say, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and the reason that these things are important beyond just launch weekend is because you need sustained sales over time. I think Odyssey, they said that in the first month, they had 3.4 million players. Mm-hmm. But that game sold over 10 million copies, you know, by the end. And obviously still might have a couple here or there that get sold. The game's 7 years old at this point. But it needs to have a long extended period of time where people are buying, are playing this game, are getting into it after they hear the good feedback. But Ubisoft has been very clear about one thing. Despite them telling us that they effectively need this game to be the most successful they've ever had, they don't want any employees talking about or comparing this to Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Leaked Ubisoft email says the pandemic is why Assassin's Creed Valhalla outsold Shadows on launch day, per IGN. It was a perfect storm that we may never see again. And I think it's funny that IGN, of all places, were the ones that were doing this. Don't compare Assassin's Creed Shadows launch to the perfect storm Valhalla benefited from. Ubisoft internal email says, Compare it to Origins, Odyssey, and Mirage. We still don't have a sales figure.
Anything to defend these companies. They will repeat whatever these companies tell them to because they're so desperate to keep their access. Whether it's early copies or it's interviews or it's just being privy to information, they will repeat all of this 1,000 times over if they have to. And they look pathetic every single time. There are so many media outlets who are running defense for this game by saying, oh, yeah, it is because of the pandemic. Oh, it is because it was the perfect storm, when really you also have to just take into consideration that this is the most controversial Assassin's Creed game to ever release, which doesn't help it.
Yeah, and when you do look at it, the couple numbers that I have seen out there, Tom Henderson put this out. Now he says, according to his Ubisoft sources, Valhalla day one player numbers were 2.55 million. Shadows day two player numbers were 2.2 million. So day one to day two, pretty big discrepancy there. Also, the added factor that Valhalla did not launch on Steam, which means that's 130 million monthly active users that did not have access to this game on day one for Assassin's Creed Valhalla versus something like Shadows.
Exactly.
So there is a reason that Ubisoft, they don't want to talk about these comparisons to Valhalla because it's falling so significantly short. And only time will tell, and we probably won't know until Ubisoft gets sold like 3 or 4 months from now, what the internal success or failure of this game truly was. But right now, Ubisoft's doing their best to do what they should do, right? If I'm a company, I'm going to do everything I can to spin this as a win, to spin it as positive, and try to convince more people to give it a shot as well. But some of the numbers don't really add up with what we're seeing.
None of the numbers really add up, to be fair. Like, we're talking about a game that costs hundreds of millions of dollars to develop, a game that was delayed multiple times, that is coming out, and even let's put the controversy aside for 2 seconds, it is buggy, it is broken. The game itself, like with the gameplay, it's not the smoothest or just most polished. We're just not talking about the level you would expect from a company the size of Ubisoft, and for one of their flagship franchises being Assassin's Creed Shadows. There are Assassin's Creed games that came out a decade ago that run better than this.
Yeah, and I mean, it is just interesting in general that there's 8,000 people basically playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey right now on Steam. And this game just came out a week ago, and it's got 32,000. That's interesting in and of itself. And so you can kind of understand maybe why they're desperately trying to not compare this to Valhalla and compare it to these other things that came out, years and years ago. But we'll see what happens. Players are mixed for sure. Apparently, feudal Japan's now mixed with the amount of people Yasuke is going around fucking. But
guess so.
Did you partake in any of Yasuke's gay romances?
Haven't made it that far yet. So no. The only, I guess, romance option that I've really chosen for him is with Lady Oichi. So he's getting ready to fuck his master's sister. Seems very historically accurate. Definitely true.
And they're like 18 Japanese emperors that are descended from her or something.
Yep.
So exactly. Did any of them look a little black? I don't remember, but
I don't think so. But, we're fine with historical revisionism now because it fits our narrative.
Apparently.
Yeah.
He's fucking everybody though. He's fucking a non-binary freak. He's fucking
There's
a random
tons of romance options in the game. Yeah, it's constantly popping up. And they're not even good romances. Even the characters who aren't supposed to be historical figures, it's just cringe.
What's a good romance in Veridark's mind? If you're in this and you're in Assassin's Creed Shadows, what's a good romance? What would you like to see?
I don't know, just not cringe. it's one thing to have a romance where characters take like, I don't know, half the game to like get to know each other and you have opinions that are similar. So like maybe I guess maybe this is the one thing I can give Veilguard as a credit. In Veilguard, you can make people so angry with your choices that they end up abandoning you. They don't want to romance with you anymore, which I guess is good because it actually feels like your choices slightly matter, but none of that happens in Assassin's Creed. You just kind of go around and you click the romance option and then they'll romance you no matter what, which is dumb.
I feel like, look, I've not played the game. I've watched several people play it. I've watched some reviews and things like that.
How much
I
money
feel
do we
like
need? How much money do we need to raise to get you to stream the 2-hour credits?
well, then we're gonna have to play all the way through the game. I could just react to some
No,
of
you
these.
could just react to the credits.
Well, yeah, I mean, if people pay me to do that, I'll fucking do that for sure. But for me, I think that one of the most interesting, what they could have possibly done is Yasuke and Neo. Like, I feel like from what I've seen, and I've seen a lot of the spoiler reviews of the storyline and things like that, that could have been an actual interesting dynamic. Two people who start off and should be very like diametrically opposed to each other, and have different reactions to certain things and certain circumstances. But ultimately, it's all fucking surface level. They never dive really fucking very deep into that at all,
Yeah.
which could be compelling, which could be interesting, which could be a good story, but they never actually fucking do it.
Yeah, no,
And
because
then if
they're afraid and well, ultimately, it's not just that they're afraid, but they're also really bad writers. So they don't know how to do that in a way that feels natural or that feels worthwhile. So they just have it so the characters either instantly connect and they can romance, or they don't instantly connect and you can't romance.
yeah. Someone asked, is Very Dark Gen Z? She's actually 43 years old, which I
Exactly.
found
Well,
shocking.
according to the internet today, I'm 48, so I've gone up a little bit.
You're 48?
Yep, 48. That's me.
And damn, I wouldn't have pegged you a day over 50. So,
Wow.
yeah, 48. My God.